CATCOs Kids grew out of the Phoenix Theatre for Children. And so the Phoenix Theatre and CATCO, or the Contemporary American Theater Company, merged roughly 10 years ago, a little bit more than 10 years. And when they merged, they rebranded the company. And so CATCO became CATCOs Theatre, and then the Phoenix Theatre for Children became CATCOs Kids. So CATCO was more on the adult side, and of course CATCOs Kids focused on theater for families and young audiences. So apart from productions for families and young audiences, CATCOs Kids facilitates a lot of programming in schools. These are programs that are both pay for play as well as pro bono work. So we will go to schools and receive funding from those schools for programming. However, the bulk of the work that we do in schools is this pro bono work. So that's funded through grants as well as through donors. These programs we like to call at risk because the students who we work with are at risk of failure in the classroom and of never graduating. So we spend a lot of time with elementary schoolers and some middle schoolers as well doing these in-school at-risk programs. The most prevalent program that we do is a playwriting and acting program. And so what we will do is we will send our artist educators into a school, and they will work with 4th or 5th graders for 10 weeks, meeting once a week. And during that time, they will work with the students to create a class play. And there's a catch to that. The teacher helps us determine an academic topic that is usually not related to the arts. And it's something the kids are either learning about, or something they might be struggling with, or something they're going to be covering later in the school year. And that becomes the theme of the play that the students have to write about. So we spend 10 weeks, again, meeting once a week, to write this play with the students. And then we take a break over winter break. And then we come back in January, and we will meet for another 10 weeks, January through March. And during that time, we actually audition the students and then cast them in roles and then have them rehearse the play that they wrote during the first half in the fall. And then we invite them to come to CATCO and actually perform the play that they wrote up on stage for whoever they want to invite to the performance. So we call these programs at risk because we're working with students who are at risk of failure in the classroom and who are at risk of never graduating. So typically when we have the schools come to the CPAC to perform the plays, we will invite all of the classes that we're working with at a particular school. And sometimes other classes and grade levels can come see the plays as well. We've done that in the past, but typically we focus on having just the classes who we're working with come to the CPAC to perform their plays. And then we make sure to send letters home with the students so that they can invite their parents or anybody, family, friends who are interested in coming to see them perform. They get to be invited and know what's going on. So these performances are one day only, and then the next day we'll have a different school come to the CPAC to perform. Usually we have a whole week in March devoted to these performances, or informances as we like to call them, because they are performances that inform family and friends, anybody who's coming to see them, what the students have been working on during the CATCO programs. Yeah, so apart from our work in the schools, CATCO is definitely heavily involved in the community. One way that we are involved in the community is we provide the drama element to Learning Never Ends. Learning Never Ends is a day program for adults with developmental disabilities. So we go and work with the consumers, as they're called, and we will work with them on Tuesdays and Thursdays to rehearse a play. We typically have them perform 4 plays a year. So that's one of the ways that we're involved in the community. Another way that we are involved is we like to do satellite programs as well. These are in the suburbs around Columbus. So we will do classes with students in the suburbs. At times, we will also even do productions with them. Yeah, so apart from me, CATCO has a very extensive pool of CATCO Kids artist educators. These are people who have worked with us in a variety of capacities, whether performing on stage with CATCOs Theatre or CATCOs Kids. Some of them have also gone through the apprenticeship program like I did as well. So we like to keep them involved. Once we get them on stage for us or working in different capacities, we like to have them, if they have a fire for education, we like to have them work for education as well. Yeah, so apart from the classes and camps that we offer, of course, CATCOs Theatre has productions for families and young audiences. And so we, in the past, have produced up to about 8 shows a year. That includes some of those satellite programs that we'll do in suburbs. But we are usually producing about 4 shows here at the CPAC. And then we will also have 2 additional shows on top of that that are kind of season add-ons. They're really the culmination of classes that we do here, but 4 main stage shows. We typically have 5 performances here, or productions here at the CPAC, where we'll have 1 at the end of summer, and that is a month-long camp that culminates into the first production of the CATCOs Kids season. Then we have a show during the holidays. Then once the new year comes, we usually have a show in January, and then March, and then we close out our season in May here at the CPAC. But there are times, like I mentioned before, where we will have some satellite programming that ends up happening after that beyond the CPAC. Yeah, so typically our summer camp programs have over 20-ish weeks or 20 different programs, if you will, for students of a wide range of ages. So all the way down to 4 years old up through 18 is really the range that we're working with. And so we have weekly camps that happen at the CPAC, and each one of those camps follows a different theme each week. And those are typically for students who are 4 all the way up through 12, and they're broken up into more appropriate age groups as well. But then we have teen programming as well that happens, and we've done teen intensive programming that lasts 2 weeks. We're doing one of those this summer. And we've also done some programming where it's a teen intensive that actually culminates into a teen show. We did that last summer. So the programming looks a little bit different depending on what the summer looks like, but there's never a shortage of what is happening here over the summer. So even though we're not in schools, there's still plenty of education happening. And so our programs serve roughly 750 students, and when you take that into account, it's over 13,000 contact hours with all of our instructors. So through our summer camp programming, we serve approximately 750 students, and when you calculate all that out, it is approximately 13,000 contact hours with our instructors. There are times during the school year where CATCOs Kids will actually have touring productions as well. So in the past, we have toured something called Kids on the Block. It is an educational puppet troupe that is all about educating students about disabilities. And so this was a program that started back in the 70s, in 1977, when the IDEA legislation passed. And so you had students being educated alongside their peers with disabilities. And so this program started so that students without disabilities could learn more about their peers who had disabilities. And so this is a really, really great program, and it's based on bunraku theater, the type of Japanese theater. And one of my favorite parts about this program is that it actually turns over to the students, and it lets students ask the puppets questions. And so this creates a really interesting and very safe educational atmosphere where students will actually ask questions of the puppets that they might be afraid to ask an adult. So it becomes a really great educational tool. And it celebrates differences and helps everybody understand what those might be like. Apart from Kids on the Block, this past year and the year before, we toured a production of Othello the Remix, and this was a retelling of the story of Othello through hip-hop music. And so it was a cast of 4 gentlemen, and they performed for several schools, and we shared that program with middle schoolers and high schoolers. So it's a way to make theater, and specifically Shakespeare, more accessible to modern audiences by giving them a stepping stone and providing a setting as well as certainly plot elements that they would be able to relate to more than sitting and trying to read Elizabethan English in a classroom. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on at CATCOs Kids is that our shows are multi-generational. And so from our perspective, that means one of 2 things. That means either there are young students as well as adults performing together on stage, so we have young artists and adults performing in the same cast, or it is actually all kids performing for kids. And so we like to make sure that there is a student or a young artist on stage in our productions, because that can inspire the students or young artists watching the play and kind of give them that, hey, I could do that moment. So that's something that we think is incredibly important, and we strive to give that moment to anybody who comes to see our shows.